Some roads should never be taken. Some paths were never meant to be crossed. In a remote Romanian village, the fog rolls in thick, and when it does, a bridge appears where none should be. Those who cross never return the same. The villagers called it Podul Umbrelor, the Bridge of Shadows. No maps showed its location, no records proved it existed, and yet, when the mist crept down from the mountains, the bridge would rise from the void, stretching across the ravine as if it had always been there. Local legends warned travelers to stay indoors on fog-heavy nights, to ignore the whispers carried by the wind. But, as with all warnings, there were always those who refused to listen. Joran Vasile had heard the stories his entire life. He had laughed at them as a child, dismissed them as a young man. But on one fateful evening, as he returned home from a neighboring town, the fog rolled in faster than usual, swallowing the valley in an unnatural haze. Then he saw it, a bridge, dark and aged, its stonework damp with moisture, its edges crumbling into nothingness. Joran hesitated. He knew this road well. There was no bridge here. And yet, there it stood, stretching across the chasm. Then came the footsteps, soft, rhythmic, not his own. He wasn't alone. He turned, heart pounding. Shadowy figures emerged from the mist, their movements slow, deliberate. Their whispers curled around him, a language both foreign and familiar. He stepped forward, drawn by something he couldn't explain. The figures moved with him, walking in unison. He quickened his pace. So did they. He stopped. So did they. Then, in the dim light, he caught a glimpse of one of their faces. It was his own, older, withered, eyes hollow with fear. Joran's breath hitched. He staggered back, nearly losing his footing. The figures did not react. They only stared, watching, waiting. Something urged him forward. He needed to reach the other side. His doppelgangers did not speak, but their presence pressed against his mind like an unspoken warning. Keep walking. Do not stop. Do not look back. The bridge groaned beneath his weight. The mist thickened, coiling around his skin like icy tendrils. With every step, the whispers grew louder, words he didn't understand, yet somehow knew. They were pleading, begging. One of the figures turned toward him fully now, and Joran saw what he had missed before. The figures weren't just older versions of him. They were trapped. Their hands twitched, as if struggling against invisible chains. Their mouths moved in silent terror. Their eyes flickered with something desperate, something that almost resembled hope. He had almost made it to the other side when he heard it, the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned, just for a second, and the world shifted. Joran stumbled forward, falling to his knees. The mist began to clear. The bridge behind him was gone. At first, relief flooded his chest. He had made it across, but then he noticed the sky. It was darker, wrong. The village before him was empty, not a soul in sight. No distant voices, no flickering lights in the windows. The air felt thick, the silence oppressive. And then he saw them, figures in the mist, standing just beyond the village, watching, waiting. He took a step forward. The figures mirrored him. His stomach dropped. He knew this place. It was home. And yet, he had never been here before. The mist never lifted. If you enjoyed this eerie tale, subscribe for more chilling stories of the unknown. Leave a comment. What do you think happens to those who cross the bridge? And if you ever find yourself lost in the fog, don't follow the path.